So there are rumors flying around the interwebs that the Bagram airbase in Afghanistan is active. It's got activity. Flights are coming in and out. There were floodlights that were photographed around the airport, and that basically the airfield that the US military and the Biden White House abandoned in the middle of the night without notifying the Afghanistan military or the Afghanistan government is now operational. And everyone is wondering who is operating that airfield, because obviously the Afghanistan military does not have the capabilities to operate that airport. The Taliban, right, whatever's left of the Afghan military and the Taliban, they don't have the capabilities to operate the airport. Where are the flights coming from? Who's operating things? And well, the most plausible explanation is the Chinese, even though China has denied that it would enter the airfield once the US had abandoned it and abandoned Afghanistan in what has been the US NATO debacle, military debacle of the century. Well, it looks like the Chinese have now entered that airport and they now run things. But first, I want to show you where I am in the city center of Belgrade. And I am at the Ministry of Defense and the Chief of Staff building, I believe this is, and the Ministry of Defense. And you will notice that this is the ministry that in 1999, on April 29th and April 30th, 1999, the US President Bill Clinton and NATO bombed this ministry on April 30th, 1999, in what was 72 days of airstrikes against Belgrade and against Serbia. And it's been preserved in this way by the Serbian government in order to remember what NATO did. What NATO did to this city and to this country. The war crimes committed by Bill Clinton and by NATO. And so 7 days later, they bombed this ministry again, right? They bombed it again. And at that same time period, on May 7th, the US bombed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade. At the time, they said it was a mistake. The CIA director at the time, George Tenet, and here's an interesting fact, gave testimony to Congress, and he noted that it was the one time throughout the whole bombing campaign where the coordinates were given by the CIA to the US military and to NATO. It was the one and only time that the CIA had given those coordinates in order to what they thought was to bomb military infrastructure, and instead it was the Chinese embassy. It left 3 people dead, and the official count is 3 people died and 28 people were severely injured. But I believe that China has never forgotten that bombing of the embassy in Belgrade. They called it a barbaric act. And you saw the ruins behind me. No doubt a barbaric act committed against Serbia and the city of Belgrade. War crimes from the Bill Clinton presidency and from NATO. And we should never forget that everything that happened in Afghanistan, the debacle, and the Joe Biden pullout in Afghanistan was not only a US debacle, it was a NATO debacle as well, because Afghanistan was indeed a NATO operation. So that kind of brings me full circle to Bagram. We talked about Bagram, that it was very odd that in July, the US military had suddenly decided to leave that airport in the middle of the night without any warning. An airport that would have made the military pullout in Afghanistan much smoother, Instead, what the US military was left with was the airport in Kabul, which was very difficult to defend and eventually led to the death of many, many Afghanistan civilians and 13 US Marines. You still have many people in the United States stuck in Afghanistan, many US citizens stuck in Afghanistan, for which the mainstream media does not report about. Anyway, now it looks like you have the Bagram airport. From what we understand, and it hasn't been confirmed, and I doubt the Western mainstream media will confirm this, but you have the Chinese now moving in to take over the airport. Why won't the mainstream media talk about this, report on this, or even confirm this? Well, think about how embarrassing it will be for NATO and for US President Joe Biden to have reports coming out saying that China is now running the Bagram airport. Think about how embarrassing that would be to his presidency. The optics would be terrible, and I imagine that the mainstream media will do everything in their power to cover this story up, or to not report on the fact that China has most likely, most probably moved in. Once again, a few weeks back, China denied this, that they would be entering the airfield, or that they had any interest in running that airfield. But if it's not the Chinese that are operating flights coming in and out, and we know that the Taliban is not capable of operating that airfield, who else could it be? It's not the Russians. Pakistanis? I don't think so. Everything points to the Chinese. I could be wrong. Maybe we'll find out the next week or two, next coming days. But you definitely won't find out from the mainstream media in the United States. That's for sure. They're going to try to hide this story and cover it up as best they can, because it is so embarrassing for US President Joe Biden and for NATO. Anyway, guys, that is the video. Go to the Duran.locals.com. Also go to SuperU, Rumble, BitChute, and ODYSEE to catch all our videos on those new media platforms. And go to the Duran shop, 10% off when you use the code REALNEWS. Take care.